Welcome back to Golf WRX's Winning What's in the Bag, where this week we're going to take a look at Hideki Matsuyama's Winning What's in the Bag from the 2025 Hero World Challenge. This is Tiger's tournament, and as we know, Tiger always wears red on Sundays, and Hideki has seemed to kind of take that, and he now wears yellow a lot on Sundays. As I think in some of the post-game stuff, he made a comment to Tiger about wearing a yellow shirt again for his victory, and when I looked up his last Hero World Championship, for his last victory, he had a yellow shirt on, so that's kind of his color. But congratulations to him. Won in a playoff, first playoff hole against Alex Noren. So pretty cool to see Hideki back in the winner's circle. And Hideki is an absolute testing equipment machine. He tests tons of stuff. So this What's in the Bag, a lot of the photos are a little bit pieced together from previous What's in the Bag photos we did. Because one, we weren't out at Albany down in the Bahamas. We weren't there in live in person. And he's tested so much stuff. I mean, the photos I'm going to put up here right now, you can see this is from a tournament a while ago, but this is him actually and his team out testing, shafts. And just, I mean, look at how many Graphite Design DIs are just laying there against the rocks and all that he's messing around with. So the guy is a complete machine. Everybody knows how many putters he goes through or tests out or tries. Absolutely just jealousy, pure jealousy. So we're going to jump into his bag, and he is, of course, a Srixon Cleveland golf staffer, so everything in his bag, for the most part, is going to be Cleveland Srixon. He does have, like, two things in there that are not, but we'll start at the top, as we always do, and driver is going to be the Srixon ZXi LS. So this is the current model out, the ZXi, and the LS is, of course, the low-spin model, so LS. And this is a 9-degree head, so going to be a little bit lower launching, lower spinning. Now, on his, this is actually a slightly different head. He's got about, I don't know how many of these heads he has, but he's got a bunch. This one is actually slightly different. At least Srixon on their social media account posted a head of his for his What's in the Bag. And his, if you look at very right near the hosel, there's a bunch of markings there. His actually says S2. This one says S1. They look identical, but there's something different between the heads. They're also what they call T251 proto heads. Now, I asked Srixon about these heads, said, what is this about? They're not giving out any details on what is different between these T251 heads and the retail LS head that we get. So these are actually really impressive heads. So if you haven't hit one of the Srixon drivers, they really are really good at ball speed. They've got a good launch and spin. The Max model is really forgiving, but they've got a great line of drivers that people just don't really know about because they think of Srixon as an iron company and a ball company, but they make some really good wood. So this LS, again, low spin, low launch, two movable weights on the sole. You can slide, heavyweight forward or back, depending on how you want to kind of change the spin on it. And from what I'm assuming, 9-degree head is playing at 9.5, so he's probably got that hosel turned up just a little bit to increase that loft on it. Now, the shaft on this one is going to be, of course, the Graphite Design Tour AD DI 8TX. Now, the DI has been around since 2010. It's an extremely old shaft. I mean, Tiger played it for a while. You still see it in countless pros bags. It was kind of designed originally as a kind of mid-high launch, low spin shaft. So kind of back in the day when everybody was kind of chasing that high launch, low spin, the DI was one of those. And DI actually stands for deep impact, meaning a very long, stable shaft. So this one here is an 8TX, so pretty heavy weight and for a driver shaft. Comes in at mid-launch and low spin, though. As you get into these heavier weights of the DIs, they tend to transition from higher launching into more mid-launching. And I do think that I've played, the 6s, the 7s. I've never hit an 8, but I played the 6s and 7s in the DI, and I do believe they play very different from each other in terms of the progression of how the flight and spin comes off. But mid-launch, low spin for the 8TX, kind of a medium handle, medium midsection in terms of stiffness, and then a stiff tip on it for control. 86 grams and 2.9 degrees of torque. All right, so we move into 3-wood, and 3-wood is a TaylorMade Qi10. So, of course, the Qi10 has been in a ton of bags. A bunch of players have never let them go, and I think it's just because they are a great blend of forgiveness, distance, good looks. They launch high, they've got some spin, and all those are things that I think these pros are looking for. Having a little bit of spin can add some control, help them work the ball, can also help kind of throw it up a little bit higher, let it land into the green a little bit softer. But the Qi10 has just been an absolute workhorse out there on the PGA Tour. And like I said, so many players just keeping him in the bag even through last year. Now it looks like to be, it's a 15-degree head, it's a 3-wood, but I believe the actual loft is 14.7. If you look on his shaft, which I'll put the image up here in a minute, this shaft has kind of a length and it looks like a loft kind of printed on it. It doesn't specifically say it, but I don't understand what other 14.7 would be. So I believe it's 14.7 degrees in terms of loft. And then shaft on this one is another Graphite Design Tour AD DI 9TX. Now this one is a tour-only part. We get a 9X, but we don't get a 9TX. And typically the TX, they are about a gram or so heavier, and the torque is about 0.1 or 0.2 degrees lower than the retail model. And the retail 9X comes in at 97 grams and 2.6 degrees of torque. So I'm going to assume it's probably going to be around 98 grams and probably about 2.5 degrees of torque for the TX. But again, tour issue part, so I don't have any true specs on it. This one, again, is going to be mid-launch, low spin. He has it tipped 1.5 or 1.25 inches and playing it at 42.6 inches in length. The next wood in his bag is then going to be his 5-wood, and this is going to be an old Cobra King RadSpeed Tour. And this is a 17-degree head. Came out a while ago. This was kind of a low launch, low spin head. I feel like the RadSpeed struggled a little bit at retail only because you had to be able to generate a lot of height, a lot of spin on your own. And not everybody can do that, especially in the amateur ranks. But a 17.5 degree head for this 5-wood, but he does have the hosel setting clicked up to up 1.5, so it's playing at 19 degrees. And as you notice, of course, this goes back to the days when Cobra had the rails on the sole. So the rails on the sole did two things. One, it lowered the CG, moved some weight further down in the head, kind of helped with launch and all that. And then also it helped with turf interaction. So it would kind of hit the turf and get through the turf a little bit faster, less kind of surface area touching the ground. And it just worked really well to hit it out of the rough, out of a tight fairway lie, whatever. Those rails kind of helped with that. Now this one here, shafted up, as you'd be shocked to know, a Graphite Design Tour AD DI 10 TX. Now this is, again, 100% tour issue part. We don't get these here. The closest we get is the hybrid shaft at 105 grams, but the 10TX has been around out on tour for a little while. And this is a 100-gram shaft. I'm going to assume it's probably about 105-ish grams, something like that. They typically play a little bit heavier than the number on them, but about 100 grams. It's probably going to be mid-launch, maybe mid-low launching, and low spin. Same, I'm assuming, profile of having that kind of medium handle, medium midsection, stiff tip profile, but not 100% sure. And this one looks to be tipped 1.75 inches and playing at 40.4 inches long. So pretty darn short, but again, playing like a 19, so it's kind of a little bit more closer to a 7-wood, and that is still short for a 7-wood, but he maybe does it for a little bit of control or distance gapping. Now moving to his irons, and his irons are a set of Srixon Z-Forge 2s. So these are the blades that are in the Srixon lineup, and now they don't have a ZXi in a sense. The Z-Forge 2 is carried over, and it's just going through again. These look pretty much like the retail, but I'm going to put up to another image of the retail one and Hideki's, and the muscle on the back of Hideki's definitely looks a little bit different. It looks like the shaping down in the bottom is a little bit different. Out on the toe and heel, looks like that weight has a more straighter edge on Hideki's. Hideki's also look to be a little bit chunkier, have a little bit more mass to them than the retail version. So he might have them build a kind of special one for him in order to maybe hit the same launch window, maybe the spin target, whatever he's trying to accomplish with these blades. Now, they also do not look to have the V-sole. Now, when you get into the retail one, the V-sole on the Z-Forge 2 is pretty shallow. It's not as pronounced as the ZXi 5, ZXi 7s. But this one here definitely looks like it's just a pretty traditional sole, and that could just be maybe the turf interaction on the traditional sole is more what Hideki wants. Playing tighter, firmer conditions, he may not want that extra bounce on the bottom of the sole. Now, these ones here are shafted up with the True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Shoe S400s. Now, yes, pretty interesting that he's playing super heavy, super stiff stuff in the woods, and then we get into irons, and he's playing S400s, which are technically stiffs, 132 grams, kind of mid-low launch, mid-low spin, but plays a little bit softer, but still heavy in the irons, which is pretty interesting. Then we move on to wedges, and his wedges are Cleveland RTX4 forged prototypes. Yes, so these are RTX4s. Those came out in 2018. We get the cast versions here in the US, but some Asian markets and even out on tour, they made a forged version of it. So forged out of steel, still has a milled face with pretty aggressive grooves on it. Very straight leading edge when you look down on his, where I believe the standard retail ones had a little bit more roundness, a little more softness there. His are very straight on the leading edge, which is pretty interesting. Now the first one in his bag is the 48 degree. It's a pitching wedge. Not sure the bounce specs on this one, as the sole is completely blank. There is some like laser etching on the back of the wedge, but it's really hard to read from photos. I bet there's something there that says what kind of bounce or what kind of specs this thing is. But 48 degree pitching wedge, which also probably means his iron set is a little bit weak as well. Then we move into his gap wedge, and it is a 5210. This is a kind of a fuller sole, a little bit of heel relief, just a touch of trailing edge relief, but really more a lot of relief in the heel, a little bit in the toe. Probably set up for hitting more fuller shots or shots with the club face more square to the target. But again, RTX4 forged on this one. They look really good. I bet they look awesome with the straight leading edge and just flow really well from pitching wedge to gap wedge in this set. Now the 52, I believe, is probably playing at 52, but it does have, you can see just the remnants of one of the stickers that is a D2 swing weight on that one. Then we move into a sand wedge, and sand wedge is a 5608. Now this one's got definitely more relief on it. You can look at the toe, the heel, the trailing edge, definitely a heavier amount of relief. The bounce looks also to be pushed a little bit more towards the center of the club head, and sometimes, like, you know, they'll have that bounce that lines up where the release for the player is. So if he's got a pretty neutral release with this club for the shots he hits, moving that bounce kind of in the middle may allow him to kind of utilize it better or resist digging better when he's playing it for more of a full shot or a square shot towards the target. Now this one here comes in, it is 57.5 degrees of loft, a 63.5 degree lie, and 35 inches long with a D3 swing weight. Kind of cool that he has like some little stickers down on the shaft there to kind of know what they are. And now this wedge is from a slightly older what's in the bag, so it may slightly have changed, but it seems from what I went through as what's in the bags, this has not changed much over his what's in the bag. They all seem to be around this spec, so I believe it's probably very, very similar. The final wedge in his bag is going to be a 6008, again, RTX4 forged. Now this one here has a little bit more of a pre-worn leading edge on it. You can see that it's ground and then the sole, and then it's got some heavy relief in the back. So it kind of looks like a Vokey T grind a little bit with all that relief, probably allowing him to really open the face, play those higher lofted shots. But then that pre-worn leading edge going to allow that leading edge to get down and low on those firm and tight lies, and also probably help reduce a little bit of digging when you throw it into the turf, or you get some of those kind of nasty, kind of grabby type lies or type turfs. Now this one here is 35 inches long as well, 62 degrees, so bent a little bit weak, with a 63.5 degree lie and a D3 swing weight. D3 I feel like is a little bit light on the swing weight for a wedge on tour, but hey, it's all about what you like and what you like the feel of. So those are his wedges. Now all three of these wedges, or all four of these wedges, are shafted up with True Temper Dynamic Gold Tour Shoe S400. So again, 132 grams, kind of mid-low launch, mid-low spin, and they're weight sorted to a tolerance of 0.5 gram plus or minus. So extremely tight tolerances on weight, very consistent throughout the set. Then move into his putter, and he has more putters than you can shake a stick at. There's a photo here from an older tournament where one of his guys on his team bringing out putters to the practice green. The guy has 1 million Scotty Cameron putters that he goes through. This one here was interesting. So it's a Scotty Cameron GSS. It's probably a Timeless or a Newport 2. They've got a slightly different names there for them, but it's a Scotty Cameron GSS. And it's actually from the 2022 Memorial. That's kind of where I found the photos of this. I had to go back into our archives, and yes, he was messing around testing this one at the 2022 Memorial, but it is a GSS, so it's made out of a German stainless steel, and Scotty claims German stainless steel is a little bit softer, a little bit easier to machine, and you know, guys like Tiger and some other players have all gotten GSS heads. And yes, the verdict's out on, you know, if steel out of Germany is any softer or different than steel out of the US or Japan or wherever. And you can go look up and have that argument. But Scotty says it's a little bit softer, and a lot of guys on tour use it. So, hey, you know, there's got to be something to it. Now, it's Newport 2 style head, so it's a little bit more boxy, got a little bit longer bumpers, a little bit flatter. Now, this one does have a little bit of softness to it. Usually a lot of Hideki's kind of Timeless 2s and stuff like that, they've got really sharp edges, and they're very boxy, very squared off. This one is like a little bit softer, a little bit more rounded along those edges. The typical 3 dots in the cavity, that was kind of been, you know, Scotty's thing. Says Hideki and GSS on the bumpers, and then the front of it has a single kind of, they call it a tour dot. I think when Tiger made it famous, it was called a cherry bomb because it was filled with red. Hideki's here is filled in black and just has a small Scotty Cameron hand stamp on the face. The face also has a fairly shallow milling, which I think, you know, Hideki kind of likes. Seems like most of his putters, very few are deep milled or heavy milled. So he must like a little bit crisper sound and feel off the face, which is what a shallower milling pattern will do for a putter. Now this one here, just a red single sight line in the flange, nothing else on there. So pretty good looking putter there, just an L neck, standard plumber's neck on there. And then it's got 2 sole weights on it. they look to be smaller than the traditional like removable weight. They look to be a little bit smaller than that, so I don't know if they're like permanent, like tungsten plugs that are put in there, but I can't tell because the sole is, of course, covered with lead tape. There's also a little circle T out on the toe, but covered all with lead tape to get that weight exactly how Hideki likes it. Hideki likes to use a little bit of lead tape. If you look at all of his clubs in there, likes to put a little lead tape on stuff. Now, the grip is the Scotty Cameron Studio design in black. It has like the dancing Cameron on there. Kind of a smaller grip, very thin, but great feel, great responsive, full rubber. And it has kind of a little bit more, it's not as tapered in the underside, it's a little bit more rounded. So if you like that feel in your hands, it's there. And again, very small, gives you right down to the shaft, gives you a lot of feel and feedback. Then for ball, he is using the Srixon Z-Star XV. It should be the 2025 model, and the XV is kind of the mid-high launch, lower spin ball in the lineup. So going to be a little bit higher launching, a little bit lower spinning than the standard Z-Star, and it also should spin a decent amount less than the Z-Star Diamond. Now this one here does have also a little bit firmer feel, so the Z-Star will feel a little bit softer, as will the Diamond. This one will have a little bit firmer feel and an audible sound to it with the putter and wedges and things like that. Finally, we bust into his grips on the rest of his set, and his grips are Iomic X Evolution 2.3s. And Iomic had a huge run for a while, and everybody wanted Iomics. Everybody was playing them because they were a little bit different. They're not built of traditional rubber. They're built of elastomer, which is kind of a resin. So two-part material, it's a resin, comes together, creates this elastomer, and it's got a unique feel to it. But it's very tacky, even though it doesn't look like it. But the big thing is they built these on to resist torque. So they've got a little softness to them, but they're supposed to have a zero twist. So as you swing the club, the head isn't going to twist or move in your hands or the layer between your hands and the shaft. But it's supposed to be very solid there. I've actually got a few Iomics just recently on a set of irons, and I kind of miss the Iomic. I think it is a really, really good feel to it. They call this one the X Evolution, kind of the cord version of the Iomics. I don't really believe that. It doesn't quite feel the same as cord, even though it has this kind of rougher texture to it. It kind of in between a little X herringbone pattern, but it's definitely not near a cord. So, but that is Hideki Matsuyama's winning What's in the Bag from the 2025 Hero World Challenge. Congratulations to him on a big win, and we will check back next week with the next winning What's in the Bag.